The possibility was there. You'll never eat lunch in this town again. I had people who knew about what we had going on say to me, this is going to ruin everything you work for. And I was like, is it? And I still jumped.
And that's why I love her, Jeffrey. You know what I'm saying?
Niecy Nash, the acclaimed actress from TV shows like Claws, Reno 911, and When They See Us. She didn't know what the reaction was going to be when the world found out that she'd married a woman. But that's not the same thing as being nervous. There was no hesitation on her part. She hadn't been hiding or grappling over the years with her sexuality. She perhaps rather simply just found herself in love, this time with the singer Jessica Betts, one of her closest friends in the world, and she didn't want that relationship to only exist behind closed doors. So today, this is a story about learning something new about yourself in your 50s when you assume that all your life you're straight, and then giving yourself permission to follow a new path. From The Advocate magazine in partnership with GLAAD, I'm Jeffrey Masters, and today we're kicking off our big Pride celebration on LGBTQ&A with Niecy Nash and Jessica Betts. Here it is. I want to jump right in. The two of you have been friends for about 4 years. And when friends start dating, I always wonder, after that much time, what changed? Niecy, let's start with you. What changed that made you realize something deeper was here?
Well, first of all, I was single. Let's start there. Let's start that I wasn't in a marriage or a relationship that required monogamy. And so I did not know that someone who was my dear friend, I considered a dear friend, was going to be a place to land because I've never dated anyone of any gender that I was friends with. So what happened was I was single, finally, and I was open to whatever God sent into my life next.
And then for Jessica, Niecy's told a story where she reaches out and, touches your neck at the end of a movie one night. What is your reaction? What's going through your mind when she does that?
I was like, what the hell is going on? I had a complete monologue of, I was nervous and I was like, what the hell is going on? But when her hand touched the back of my head, I felt butterflies and I was like, wow, it felt really cool, and I guess it just led to marriage at this point.
Well, the funny thing is that you said that what you felt for yourself was the idea that you could love again.
Yeah, after the butterfly effect, it was definitely that feeling like, wow, I could love again, and it put a lot of thought in my mind in terms of what could be, moving forward. And it was all scary. So I had so many different emotions going through my head at that time, but definitely feeling like, damn, I could love again. That was definitely part of it.
Both of you have mentioned your amazing friendship. Were either of you worried oh my God, this might ruin our friendship?
That would be me.
Absolutely. But I felt like that too,
Did you?
Yes, I did.
No,
I did.
Because if you felt like it, you still stayed on the ride.
No, but it comes to a point where, when we did, after the head rub and after the exchange, if you will, she became reluctant. And so I started, and when I felt like I can love again, she started,
pulling back
and ignoring my text. And so I'm like, good morning. I'm like, there's crickets, good afternoon, crickets, good evening, crickets. So I guess she was kind of.
I was very, very fearful, and I wasn't responding to the text messages because what was at the
Keep in mind, she had already put her hand on my neck and got me all googly woogly inside.
But then I got afraid because I was like, I never want to imagine a future without this being. However, what if I ruined it and this person can't be in my life forever? I definitely don't want to go down a path that would not have her in my life. And so I was backing up because I was afraid, and I was like, oh man, my life without this person ever? I'm not going to I can't make it. I don't want that. Then in the absence, she was all I could think about. And then I was like, I got to go ahead and call back.
Well, I feel like for Jessica, there's this added complexity that you are falling madly in love with this assumed straight person. And on top of that, a celebrity. But I would be worried that, like, oh, I'm falling in love with somebody and they're never going to be ready to come out.
This wasn't my first rodeo, if you will.
I'm Jessica Betts, and I date the straights.
As you can see, we joke about and on each other all the time. Of course, you don't want to be in a situation when you're with someone who wants to keep you in the dark or in the back or secret. And so I don't really feel like I ever had that fear, or she never made me feel like I would ever be that. I never felt like I couldn't be myself, and I never felt like she couldn't be herself around me. And there were times when we did have to be kind of low key. When we first started dating, when no one knew, and she would just cry. She would cry because, it was almost as if she was not able to show her love, and we had to kind of like tell each other we loved each other in secret and stuff like that.
I remember having tears in my eyes. We went to the grocery store, and this was all during COVID. Everybody was on a lockdown and it was quarantine. And I'm just standing in the middle of the aisle like, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" She come from around the corner and said, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "I just want to hold your hand in the grocery store." We were never a secret. We were private until we figured out you're my person. Mm-hmm. Once we identified with that part, we were able to then say, we're going to move forward in this way. So while our very, very close friends and immediate family knew, the world did not find out until after we got married.
Because there's a huge difference with having privacy
and being a secret. Yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up because sometimes I feel like when a celebrity comes out, we demand that they disclose a lot of private things to us, and we ask revealing questions that we never would have asked, quote unquote, Niecy Nash married to a man. Have you felt like that?
Well, I wasn't anywhere, and I just want to be clear about this part, to come out from. It wasn't like I was living a lie. I love the people who I loved when I was with them. Do you understand me? I wasn't living a lie. I just loved those people. When I loved her, I loved her. I didn't want that to be anything that was kept in the shadows and in dark corners either. So it wasn't as much about me coming out as much as it was about me coming into myself, owning that I allowed myself to not only feel what I felt, but then to do something about what I felt for her.
That's so interesting because, falling madly in love with somebody is very personal. It's a personal thing. But in this instance, I would think that also falling in love with who you did would cause a potentially radical change to your identity. You're suddenly a member of the LGBTQ community. I call it a radical change, but do you feel like that?
Well, yes. When people say, "I want a number one," you can't get up to the drive-thru and then be like, "Who put these fries in here?" Because it comes with it. Yeah. So getting my mind wrapped around everything that came with it, I was immediately at a space and a place where I was like, Jessica comes with what she come with. And I love her so much. I used to cry. Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to just love you out loud.
Yes.
Now, let me just tell you of the world. We had no idea how they were going to respond to this news. Yeah. You've only ever known Niecy Nash to be one way. You've never seen me. It wasn't rumored that I did this or did that. Like, some other people were like, "Oh, there's a smoking gun." It literally was snatched out of the atmosphere. Because people were like, "This has to be a movie. Is this fake? This can't be real. Is this a role?" "Oh no, I give it 5 minutes. Oh no. This will never last. Is this a publicity stunt?" However, I have to say we have received the warmest welcome as a couple. Mm-hmm. And the world has been surprisingly kind.
2020 was such a hard year for everybody with the pandemic and then also this ongoing racial reckoning in the country. And I think what was so captivating about your wedding announcement was this explosion of Black queer joy that we rarely get to see. And then you were like inviting us to celebrate that with you.
And bringing a sense of normalcy to it. I think that a lot of times, we are, in the LGBT community, we are placed under so many different categories and labels, if you will. And I just feel so happy to be with someone who understands me and understands, because I, being masculine identified woman, a Black woman, when all of the, when the uniform comes off, I'm still a Black woman, and I think people need to understand that. So they can stop, just kind of placing it other than what it is and calling it other than what it is, Very important that people know that.
So was it a conscious decision that the two of you made together to be so public about your relationship?
Well, I don't think that we're what you would call so public. I think what happened was that we fell in love. We decided to give it a little time to make sure we really wanted to do this. Mm-hmm. By the time we decided we really wanted to be with each other, she already put a ring on it. And I was like, okay, we got married in 6 weeks.
6 weeks from the time we got
engaged. We had already been a vibe. And so letting the world know wasn't anything different than my last 2 marriages. It was like, hey guys, I got married, because I don't want to be outside walking down a promenade somewhere with this lovely thing and somebody tell my story. Like, oh, I saw Niecy Nash with a woman down at the Piggly Wiggly. No, Niecy Nash told you that she was now Carol Beck's. I let you know. You didn't let me know. Mm-hmm. So I let them, when we let them know that we were an item, I'm not doing anything different than I would do with anybody that I was with. I'm with you all the time. So normally if I take a picture or a video, you somewhere right there. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm promoting an ideal in as much as I'm just sharing
or
my
having
life.
An agenda. It's just we do what we do. We love each other, and it's bringing normalcy to a place that people really still at this day and time still feel really uncomfortable with, and we don't feel uncomfortable at all.
And I think that is why I asked that question, because I saw, just absolutely no hesitation to share about your new marriage and your new wife. And it stood out to me because we've seen repeatedly celebrities come out and they don't want to talk about it. They make the announcement and they don't want to ever talk about it ever again. And they also avoid queer media outlets, to be completely honest.
Wow.
We are releasing this interview while you're going to be on the cover of the Advocate magazine. And I'm like personally thrilled that you even wanted to do that.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. We are honored, actually, because within the community, we just got to be real. Within the community, there are differences, within our community. So yes, absolutely. I think we are honored because we definitely want to be a part of some of the change and start conversations so that people can start feeling more comfortable.
It's kind of amazing too, from the person you were, let's say like 10 years ago, Niecy. You wrote a book in 2014 about dating and relationship advice, specifically for women dating men. And so it's so fascinating to see like the massive change from that person to like the one you are now. And I think like the big question is like, how did you get there? And it sounds like the answer is like you were just open to it when it was in front of you.
Well, the one thing that I will tell you about that, when I wrote that book, I was married to a man. I wrote it from the perspective that I was in at the time. However, I still feel like those same principles apply. I mean, I talk about in the book, how do you know when you are with a partner and you're equally yoked? I talked about intimacy. I talked about how to fight fair. I talked about how to sustain your love. All of those principles still apply. I think there's only one quote in the book that people pull out. Yeah, is that when I said a BJ a day keeps the divorce attorney away. And they were like, well, you got divorced. Well, did it work? It obviously didn't work. I said, no, just stop doing it. It worked. And it's still applicable if you smell what I'm cooking. So people need to stop. People need to stop.
Need to stop what?
They need to stop when they're with that one book, judging the entire book by one quote.
But I don't doubt that the BJ a day keeps the divorce attorney away. I say keep that slogan going.
This is the part where I put my hand over her mouth and say, please don't say anything else. We gonna make them pay for that info.
You know, we have this image in Hollywood, I think, of celebrities and teams and highly controlled PR machines. And I just wonder, was there any discussion behind the scenes about waiting or even not sharing your relationship?
No, I think that it was private, and our close family and friends knew. My children, my mother, Sherry Shepherd, Ava DuVernay, and Oprah, I think, was on my side. And a few people close and on her side. And once we decided to get married, we kept it really intimate because of COVID. Because I would have married her in front of 1,000 people. But we whittled it down to 24. So we had drive-up COVID testing. We did all the precautions. We got married. And so our guest signed an NDA because we wanted to tell our own story. And so it was like we got married on a Saturday. We had brunch on Sunday. I said, babe, you know, these people ain't going to keep this private for too long. What we going to do? And on our way to our honeymoon, we posted at the same time. There was never a doubt. I could not wait to just
love you
out loud. And you know that. I couldn't wait. And you know that was the thing that I was excited about the most, right? Mm-hmm. I cried about it. I prayed about it. I'm like, I just want to love you. When we stood in our backyard and took our vows, and we said vows to each other, I don't think I've ever been in a relationship where I have ever felt this fully seen by my partner. The love that we felt on that day is what I hope that we are putting into the world. I don't want to cry. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for people who love us, you know, and who send us encouraging messages and emails, and because they didn't have to. They did not have to. People as a whole did not have to be that kind. And then once we posted that picture, we were like, I felt so free. We jumped off the cliff, and I felt so free. But we didn't know what was going to happen once we posted it. And because I was on doing what I was doing in entertainment, the possibility was there. You'll never eat lunch in this town again. I had people, who knew about what we had going on say to me, this is going to ruin everything you work for. And I was like, is it?
And she jumped with me anyway.
And I still jumped.
And that's why I love her, Jeffrey. You know what I'm saying?
With people saying that this might ruin things, how much was your race a factor? That like you'd worked your butt off as a Black woman in Hollywood to get where you were?
I don't know if my race was a factor. I can't confirm or deny that from the people who said it to me. I heard it from Black people, but I don't know if they thought that my race would be a part of what wouldn't let me overcome the choice where I lay my head. And I think that oftentimes as a society, you assume that white people are given more privilege, more leeway, more chances than maybe non-white people are. But they did not use the term because you're Black. So I don't know if that's what they were thinking, the people who said that to me.
I was wondering because you started your career with Reno 911, at least like in a big way. That's like when we got to know you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until when I saw When They See Us, the Ava DuVernay Central Park series, that I was like, oh, Niecy Nash is a dramatic actress also. And I didn't know if Hollywood has just typecast you as comedy only, or if there are simply just like fewer dramatic roles for Black actresses.
Mm-hmm. No, I was definitely typecast. I mean, the industry was kind, but they lovingly said, oh, no, dear, you have a lane. You do over-the-top, broad comedy. And I'm like, no, I was born funny, but I know how to do other things. And so it wasn't until I did a very small, when I say small, I mean quiet series for HBO, and it was called Getting On. Once I did Getting On, people, and I got nominated for an Emmy for 2 years in a row for that role. And then that's when the industry took notice and was like, oh, you can do more than that. Yeah. So then it was Getting On, then came Selma, then When They See Us, then Uncorked. Like, so it started a rollout where people were like, oh, we can trust you with this type of work. And so right now, when I leave my beloved and go to work, I'm doing the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which is very dark, for Ryan Murphy at Netflix. So now people trust me, but so much so that I think they forgot I'm funny. I'm like, where's the comedy scripts? So, you got feast or famine,
You mentioned that you called a couple different people about your relationship with Jessica, Ava DuVernay and Oprah. Was there any advice from any of those women that stood out to you?
It wasn't so much about advice in as much as it was about support. It's challenging for somebody to advise you on a road that they haven't been down. But what they can do is tell you that I support you and I love you and live your truth and be happy. And that's the main thing. When people say, what should I tell people if they ask me any questions about you? Tell them I'm happy, because that's the most important part.
I think that something that I like about queer relationships are that we get to shuck off traditional gender norms. To oversimplify it, the man is the provider and breadwinner and the woman is the homemaker. Are letting go of things like that like something that you're experiencing now?
I don't know for me, per se. I don't think that we're experiencing that. The reason why I'll say that, because with Jessica being masculine identifying, like the roles for me haven't changed. It's not like, oh, now I found myself in playing a different role. No. You know what I mean? I'm still a wife. I'm still a homemaker. I'm still all of those traditional things.
She's everything she was and more.
Thank you.
Well, what about for you, Jessica? What has it been like to take on this new role as stepmom?
Well, again, this is not my first rodeo, so I've been with, women who've had children, and to, not just, love the woman, but to love everything about her and everything that comes with her, Stepmom, I guess Dia calls me mom, so it's kind of cool, actually.
She says, hey, moms.
Yeah.
Our youngest. It's like, hey, moms.
Yeah.
What are our moms doing?
It's kind of cool. It's because they're accepting and they're loving, you know what I mean? So it's really cool, man. It really is.
As we wind down, I just want to hear about what's coming up next for you. Starting with you, Jessica. I mean, you're a singer. Are you with a label at all?
I am not. I want to remain independent based on what I feel like is a highly anticipated EP. I'm working on an album, which I feel is very dear and near to me.
And amazing.
I asked that about a label not to be rude or judgmental, but because I think there's now a ton of interest in you, and I just wonder if you're hearing from people.
Oh yeah, I'm hearing from people, and like I say, I'm just in the works of getting this amazing album put together.
But the thing of it, let me tell you what she won't tell you. Let a proud wife say something. The phone is ringing off the hook. Emails abound. Everybody loves JV, and they want her to sing at this and perform at that. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of interest happening. You can literally go and download music that she already has out now. And people are like, oh my God, I love this song. I didn't know, you know what I mean? And people who were already fans of her are like, where's the new music? So she definitely has irons in the fire.
Amazing. And then last question, I think it has to be for Niecy. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Reno 911. It was revived for Quibi, which has since shut down. You are a star and executive producer of it. Is there any chance we'll be able to see the show anywhere coming up?
I think that we're moving over to another streaming platform. And I also know that we are in talks to do another Reno movie.
That's exciting.
Those two things are true.
Thank you for spending so much time with us today. This has been fantastic.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
And that was Niecy Nash and Jessica Betts. They also cover our big Pride issue at The Advocate. If you want to check that out, you can find that at advocate.com. And then next week, we'll be joined by Ashley C. Ford, whose remarkable new memoir is coming out that is called Somebody's Daughter. So next week, we'll see you back here. And in the meantime, please help us spread the word by posting about us on social media. Doing things like that are really the biggest ways you can help our show continue to grow. So we're on Twitter and Instagram at LGBTQpod. I'm on there at JeffMasters1. Come tag us, please. We love hearing from you every week. We're brought to you by The Advocate Magazine in partnership with GLAAD. I'm Jeffrey Masters. I'll see you next week. Bye.